Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and I would like to somewhat discuss the state of play that we had last week. Obviously, this is a little bit behind, but I rarely keep up with gaming news like that unless it's E3. I don't really do it too much, and with the crazy year that we're in, it's like, I don't know what it is about this year. I think it's specifically the fact that it's just like everyone's kind of doing their own thing. I'm just not as invested as I normally am, so it's kind of just like, I'll get to it when I get to it. Plus, I got a bunch of other random crap I'm trying to do. Speaking of which, super shameless plug, check out my gaming channel. It is Invisible High. It's a 420 gaming channel, so I play games while high. I've gone through The Last of Us Part 2, if you care to watch that, because I know everybody hates it. Also, I just did an analysis video. I never do those, so please check that out, because it took me forever to get through that. So just to check it out, please do, because it's about why I actually love The Last of Us Part 2, so it's basically the opposite of every other Last of Us 2 video. So please check that out if you guys are interested. But I wanted to do this because there's like three things, for me at least, that were really worth talking about. One of which I found out kind of after. So we'll definitely get to like just the madness that can happen within the gaming community. So I'll talk about that in a bit. But made my little list as usual. That's like my new thing now. I'm like, oh, lists are for grown-ups. It helps you remember stuff. Because I'm the dude that never writes anything down. I learned that from Catherine. It was like, do you write things down or do you remember them? I never forgot that, where it makes you choose that choice. And it was like, the bad choice was that you just remember. And I was like, huh. Took me like 5 years after that to actually start writing notes down. But anyway, state of play. Obviously, they said there aren't going to be any giant announcements. Apparently, people are stupid. What a shock. So they were mad that there weren't any giant announcements like the price or the release date. That would have been a great shock. That would have been a really cool twist. But you know, it is what it is. Just look at the rumors. There seem to be a lot of consistent rumors for the PS5 price specifically. I recently heard some stuff about the Xbox, so we'll see when it officially happens, but you can check out the rumors. They seem to be fairly consistent, and they might give you a real answer. Obviously, we still have to wait to find out from the actual sources, the companies themselves. But State of Play was last Thursday, I do believe, at like 1 or something like that. And first thing I have up here, Crash 4, costumes and the level revamps. Crash 4 looks cool. I'm not going to buy it. I'll just say that right now. I like Crash Bandicoot. I played 1, 2, and 3. I thought about getting the Insane Trilogy as well as getting the Spyro Collection as well, because it was like, those are the two classic games. It was Naughty Dog had Crash, Insomniac had Spyro, and it was just like those were the two things. And now they've kind of obviously evolved beyond that. Naughty Dog has Uncharted. I also love that. Insomniac, as of now, I would say Insomniac has Spider-Man. They did have what the heck was that franchise? Resistance, I think, was Insomniac. I actually love that. I still would love Resistance 4, to be totally honest, because they never actually end the story. I thought it was going to be like, definitively, the war ends, and it doesn't. And I'm like, I hope we get one. I highly doubt we will, though. But I would love an end to that series, because I bought all 3 games, and I like all of them, and it's very unique. So I'd like to see that happen in Insomniac, but probably won't. But Crash 4 is coming out. Seems cool. I love the costumes. They had like the crazy neon costume for Crash, and I just thought that was my favorite one that I saw in there. The level revamp thing I thought was pretty interesting with all the different visual style. My favorite one was definitely the black and white world where you spin and it shoots the colors out. That was my favorite one, just from an aesthetic where it's like, oh, that's kind of cool because you could choose not to do that. I'm sure there's some parts where it's literally too hard to tell where you can go if it's in black and white, but I was like, that'd be interesting. I like that concept, so I thought that was really cool. Some of them, like there was one they showed where it was like kind of underwater, and I couldn't tell. While I was watching, I was like, I can't tell if he's actually going slower because the whole level is actually underwater, because they talk about there are different mechanics. So I was like, it looks like it, but I couldn't really tell. So I'll have to wait till the game actually comes out for that, or I could probably check the footage again, but I couldn't tell the first time, and I was really looking. I was like, it looks like he's moving a little bit slower when he jumps, and it looks like the level's kind of underwater now. But it was hard to tell, so I'm like, I don't know if that's the case or if that was purely a visual thing or what the deal was there. But it looked cool, and I like the concept of that, so we'll ultimately have to wait and see what happens. Hitman 3 has complete VR. VR is always pretty cool. I don't play Hitman, but I was like, wow, that's cool. Braid Anniversary, I thought that was interesting. I was not expecting that. Braid, as popular as it was, it's just surprising that that specific game is going to end up getting a remake, so I thought that was cool. It looks great. So I'm somewhat excited because I always knew it was a big deal of a game. Great puzzle game. I technically know the ending because it's one of those crazy sorts of endings. But just the puzzle element of it, I was like, I might pick it up. I kind of doubt it, but Braid Anniversary, so that's pretty cool. Pathless, that's one of the big ones I wanted to talk about. Pathless looks really cool. I was like, all right, it seems very simplistic. You go through, you can like glide across the ground. As long as you hit like the little floating totems in the air, you get more of the meter to just keep dashing, and it's dash, jump, shoot. And I was like, it's just speed and bow and arrow, and I was like, yeah, that looks fun. That's like my type of thing. You just move super fast through the world, and you can fly around, you can jump, you can shoot, and you fight the bosses. And the art style actually looks really cool. It has that, it's that clay style. That's what I always call it. It's like 3D clay style. That every time I see games that look like that, that's what I think. It's like the 3D version of clay. Like it's the video game version of clay animation. So that's just what I always call it. I don't know if it has an actual name to it, but that is literally every time I see any game made that way, I'm like, that's what that is. Like cell shaded is cell shaded. Realistic is pretty much most games, and then it's like that clay style animation. That's just what I always call it. So it has that. I always thought it looked really cool, so I'm excited for that game because I was like, all right, this looks pretty awesome. Yep, like I said, you glide across the ground, hit talismans. I don't even know. I was writing so fast. I wrote no something. Oh, no map. That's what that is. I'm like, that it looks like a G. I was just writing super fast. No map. So that's interesting. It's just one of those open world sort of deals where you just explore. I want to know more about the story because they show the bosses and it's like, okay, you defeat the bosses, you kind of seemingly cleanse those segments of the world. So I would assume there's some sort of story. You're either unlocking, ancient secrets, or you're just healing the world. So I want to know what that's about, story wise. But so far, it looks super cool. So I'm definitely excited for that. Genshin Impact. It's Breath of the Wild but anime. If I remember right, that's supposed to be free to play. If I'm not mistaken, it does look cool. I'm not gonna lie. I like anime. I like sort of JRPG looking games. But it seems like it's more in the Final Fantasy VII realm, the remake style, where it's that style, but it's real-time combat, and I definitely prefer real-time to turn-based. So I was like, all right, it seems like that, but also they just did really stylized stuff, so it's hard to tell if that's really what was happening or not. But I'm fairly certain, based on what other footage I've seen, that it is just it's a open world. So I don't know. Who knows what the story's going to be, because it seems like you can pick a million characters, so I don't know if it's each character has their own story, each character is a custom character, or what the deal is there. Need more story details, but it looks fun. Classic anime style, but also Breath of the Wild. And that's cool. It's cool as far as I'm concerned, so we'll see what happens, but that's cool. Eon Must Die. So that was the one. Looks super cool. I was like, oh, this is pretty sweet. I was like, it's this really weird dark future. It's the neon tech type of style, Neo Tokyo sort of deal. And I was like, that looks really cool. Everybody's like, you don't see actual faces. Everyone's like in some sort of crazy armored up outfit, or they're crazy giant monsters. I was like, that looks pretty sweet. I'll definitely want to check that out. And then I found out the news about that company, where it was like the company that actually owns. Well, technically, they don't even really own the IP, but they took the IP from the developers. All the developers quit from that game. So if you haven't heard this story, you should really look it up. We always have crunch in the gaming community. That's always like the crappy thing where it's like, we got to hit this deadline, work, and it, it just sucks for the people that have to make the games, and there needs to be big changes there. But this is way worse than that. This is literally just, we're just going to steal it from you guys. It's ours. And that's it. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I hope, the people that worked on the game and made the game and did literally everything, they actually get that back. But this is one of those cases for sure. I'm just like, I just can't with this one. So I was excited, but I genuinely, it would have been forever anyway before I even ended up buying it, because I have a trillion other games I still need to beat that I own just on Steam alone. But I was looking forward to it because I was like, well, that looks cool. So I want to see what it's all about. And now I'm just like, well, I just want to see that they get their property back and they actually get the credit that they deserve and the money they deserve for the work that they've put in. So we'll see what happens with that. I was excited, and now I'm just like, well, I can never touch that game. Like, I can't with that one. So I was excited, and that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. There's this game, Anno Muta something. It went too fast, and I just wrote Anno MUTA ... So that one looks cool, I guess. I don't remember much about it. That might be the one where I wrote the dual wield waifu. That's probably that game. I genuinely can't remember. So there's that. So there's a woman dual wielding. I think it was that one, and it was like the side scroller style. That one looks super cool. And I just put the dual wield waifu. So that's all I need for a video game, clearly. Godfall was there. I put that at the top. It was the last game. I have no interest in Godfall, honestly. Like, it looked super cool when it was first announced at like the Game Awards. It was one of those big PS5 titles. Like, oh, Godfall is going to be like the name title for PS5. It was kind of like the first big one that seemed like it was going to be that big thing. We'll see if that happens. it just seems kind of okay to me. Like, it looks cool for sure. I actually like the outfits. I like the aesthetic of these armored up individuals. Like, I like, cool glowing sort of armor aesthetics, and the weapons seem cool. The fight style seem cool. They have dual wielding as well in that. They have the shield thing where you don't just block, you actually use the shield as a weapon. That's always a nice bonus because most people, oddly enough, don't actually do that, but shields can be thrown there. Who knew? A giant disc flying at you, it hurts. So they actually utilize that. Like, the combat has merit for sure, but it just seems like, okay, yeah, it's like a 3-player kill the monsters type of thing, and I'm just like, it looks okay. Like, that's just how I feel about the game. So I just put Godfall was there, and that was how they ultimately ended things out. But I was just like, the pedestrian looks cool, and then Hood, Robin Hood PvP, we'll see. It seems interesting, but they always do. It's always like, oh, that's a cool concept. And PvP, that's the thing. I'm a big story person, so PvP games where it's like, oh, this is the concept, and then it's just that, it just always seems to fall flat for me. Like, some games do it really well. I think Payday is probably one of those games. It's not really PvP, but it's one of those things where, it's kind of Left 4 Dead style. It's just heist instead. It's just one basic thing done over and over again, but just in different settings. But for some reason, when it's PvP, it's just like, I don't know. It just always feels weird when it's just like, yeah, we'll just throw you guys in there, and then it's, the players make the game, and that tends not to work very often. Like, there's, it's hard for me to explain it. Like, I feel like that's just such a simple way to say when the players have to make the game, it doesn't really work. But that's just how I feel when it comes to, like, PvP stuff, where it's like, really cool concept. Everyone's going for the same target, but then it's like, all right, how well is that going to play out? What are the minute story elements going to be per match? Is it just constantly we're going for the gold? There have to be multiple levels for it. Are we going to get like King of the Hill stuff? Is it always just going to be that? Is it going to be more expansive where it actually has a legit story in it, and you kind of make a group and you actually travel through a story? And maybe if people aren't playing, you get PC, or not PC, but NPCs, to help you out. You get AI companions. So I'm really curious how that's going to ultimately develop. But I feel like when games start off like that, I'm always excited in the beginning, and then it's just like, we'll see what happens. For Honor, that's the one where I think it's a great example. They have an actual story mode, but that game is kind of falling to the wayside now, because it was really, the big thing was like, oh, you have this really, interesting dynamic between actual players. And then after a while, it's just like, okay, yeah, the 4 classes have this or that, or, even if it's each different clan has 4 classes, it's like, eventually it's just like, oh, okay, cool. And we just fight to the death. So is it that, except now you're stealing treasure too? So it has to, I feel like it just has to be a little bit more for them to make it something that, people are going to stick around with. So I need to see more, but it's just one of those types of games where I'm like, I love the concept. I always do. But it's got to have more of that. It's got to have more heart than just the idea of, oh, we're stealing from the rich to give to the poor. But also, we're going to, we got to keep some of that for ourselves as a finder's fee. So we end up, going up against other gangs and stuff. So I feel like it's that. I feel like we're getting really close to just being For Honor, except instead of strictly killing each other, everyone's going to steal treasure, and then you kind of kill each other as a result of that. So a lot of mechanics. I feel like that could work really well if it's more dynamic, because you could go into the stealth components of like, you don't know where the other people are. They could be stealthy. You could be crazy, so they know where you are, but you don't know where they are. Or everyone goes in full stealth, and it's like, okay, when are we going to run into these people? When do they get the treasure? Are you alerted that they get the treasure? So many elements that could really make it dynamic, but we have to see. And I feel like it's just going to be thrown in, go get the treasure, oh, there's the people, kill them, and then leave with the treasure, or you get killed. And that's so basic, it only works for like a year, and then the game dies off. And that's just how I feel about that. So I hope it works. I always hope games work, as long as they aren't stolen. So we'll see what happens with that one, but should be interesting. We'll see about that. And then lastly, the thing I wanted to talk about most, you probably didn't notice, but right here, this little thing, one of my favorite games ever made. Oh, it's so shiny. Alan Wake. So, Control by Remedy, my favorite developer, they're coming out with the Control AWE, which it stands for Altered World Events in the like Alan Wake / Control universe, as well as Quantum Break. It's that all 3 of those games are in the same universe. But I like to call it the Alan Wake expansion, because it just makes sense. Alan Wake, E is for expansion. It's the Alan Wake expansion, as far as I'm concerned. That trailer, as soon as it came on, my friend was over, and we were just watching, and I was taking my little notes, and I wrote it real fast, but I wrote it down there and I just put 27 and then scribbled underneath. And I'm excited for that. I can't wait for that. That's gonna be a midnight thing. I think I have this. Yeah, I have the season pass stuff or whatever. So I had the first expansion when that came out. Super shameless plug again. Check out my High Gaming channel. It was actually the first thing I did on there. But yeah, I cannot wait. They're blending some great games. If you have not played Control, you're seriously missing out. I don't know how. And also, I know you haven't played Alan Wake because everybody's missing out on this. So play this. It's 10 years old. It's probably like $8, $10 or something on Steam or wherever. They had it for like $1 at one time when it was like the actual 10th anniversary. It was like $1 for a week or something ridiculous, and I bought it on Steam because I was like, well, yeah, I'll buy that on Steam instead of having it on my 360. I can have like the 4K version of Alan Wake with all the DLC, and I was like, I guess that's okay for $1. So yeah, I decided to do that. But Alan Wake is one of my favorite games of all time. It's the reason Remedy is my favorite developer. Like, I love Max Payne, but Alan Wake came out, and I was just like, it's so good. It's so good. And then Control came out, and it's so good as well. It's so good. More of an action game, more of a drama, suspense, horror game. Both supernatural. Surprise, being in the same universe. But yeah, they're blending two things together, and they already showed a little teaser of it. Like, they showed the mechanic of like staying in the light and things like that, and I was like, oh man. And they showed like Alan Wake with like a beard, and I was like, oh, he's been in quarantine as well, and it just makes sense. But August 27th, we have the AWE expansion for Control, and I cannot wait for that. That's why I'm saving it for last, because that's what I wanted to talk about the most. I cannot wait for that, August 27th. So, they're blending Alan Wake with Control, and that's just going to be great. And so that'll be cool. For anyone who, like I said, hasn't checked out Control, just check out reviews. I genuinely believe if you like supernatural stuff, it's a good action game too. For me personally, I was more invested in the story because Remedy does like really weird stuff, like the Alan Wake and Quantum Break are very good examples of that. They did a supernatural Stephen King game, and then they did a time travel game, and then they did an X-Files game, X-Files Twin Peaks game, all of which are good games. So I'm just excited. I can't wait to see what they do with that, but we will find out on the 27th. I think they have something coming up. I don't know what the date is, but you can look it up on Twitter. Remedy is going to be doing like the first 15 minutes of the expansion if you guys want to, get an early look at it. I'm going to wait because I don't want to know anything about it because I feel I'm just excited. Like, it's Alan Wake and it's Control coming together. And I knew it when I played the game. Like, there's a note that they had, and it was like the spiral in the door, and like my brain like realized that it was Alan Wake, and I was just like, oh man. And as soon as they showed the trailer, I was like, that's the motel. And then they showed the door, and I was flipping out. I was like, oh crap. This is the only verbal thing I said while actually watching the state of play. I was just, oh crap, it's Control and it's Alan Wake. So I can't wait for that. That was the most exciting thing as far as I was concerned. Everything else, like I said, looked pretty cool. I hope we figure things out with the Aeon Must Die thing. I hope they totally get their money and the people that screwed them over get fired and lose everything they have. Because that blows. That's just, it's so, I don't know. It's just a crappy thing to do. It's insane. But hopefully that works itself out and things, really go well for them. But we'd love to know your thoughts on the state of play. Did you like what we got to see? Because they did show a few surprises. I genuinely thought it was literally just going to be, here's all accessory stuff. And then it was like, here's the path list, which I don't think I knew about that unless that was announced and I just forgot. But I feel like that was the first time I ever saw the path list. So I was like, okay, as far as I was concerned, that was a good announcement. And that was a PS5 game. So I was like, okay, well, that counts as a big announcement as far as I'm concerned. It's a new PS5 game. So that was pretty cool. And then some of the other stuff, everything, was more indie style, but everything looked cool. And I was like, okay, as far as I was concerned, I think it was because I liked most of the announcements. I was like, these are big enough for me because I liked the games that I was seeing. So I was happy about that. But we'd love to know your thoughts on it. Crash 4 obviously is just a big deal. That's, it's Crash. It's coming back. That's crazy. But we'd love to know your thoughts on the state of play. Are you excited? Not excited? Thoughts on price? What do you think it's going to be? Like I said, you can check the rumors for both consoles, actually, like what the prices potentially will end up being. So we'd love to know your thoughts on that. Control, the Eon Must Die thing. We'd love to know your thoughts on that story and just how crazy that stuff is. Great anniversary. Hitman VR. I want to see more of that because Hitman is such an interesting game with what you do in it. I'm curious to see how people can kind of mess with the mechanics of the Hitman game in VR? Like, do they have it? Because I don't think they showed it as far as like, what you can do with your hands or anything like that. So I don't know if it goes that deep into it where, you get what do they even have for PlayStation? Yeah, I don't know if it's still the color orbs at the top. I honestly can't remember anymore. So it might just be VR with just the head, and you still use the controller, kind of like I think Resident Evil 7 was like that, but they also had it with the hand. So I think you could use controller, but you could still use the things as well, where you could individually move your hand. So it'll be interesting to see how that's gonna play out. Like, can you just because you can punch in that game. So can you just like slap somebody, just punch a dude? Like, you can just do whatever you want, pick things up, and just toss it and be crazy. So I want to see more of that. I'm sure they have all that stuff in there, but I just want to see more because I'm like, how are people going to make Hitman funnier? Because that was the first thing in my head. I was like, Hitman is already silly when people mess around with it, and Hitman in VR is going to be hilarious. Like, I can already just see some of the people that are going to be doing some stupid stuff in that. So I'm excited for that because it's going to make for some funny YouTube content. But like I said, all in all, we'll love to know your thoughts on the state of play. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.